Hey everybody, this is Alchemisted, and I'm recording... What the hell? I'm recording this commentary in post, because for some reason, Bandicam did not record my commentary while I was recording. Okay, so this is going to be Wolf359, and I am in the process of deciding whether I should or should not have music. Maybe dial that music down just a little bit. This is a reenactment of Wolf359 that's based largely on fan work. There's a lot of things there that really weren't there in canon. But I suppose it's STO canon now, so splitting hairs. I much prefer the JFX, JTVFX, whatever the channel is called. I much prefer their version. And we do have some clips of Patrick Stewart from Best of Both Worlds. As well as what sounds like Dave Rivas trying to do a gravelly Admiral Hansen. USS Bastion, which I took a screenshot of that because that's hilarious for backstory reasons. Well, not really backstory. It's just story at this point.
Starfleet forces will make our stand here at Wolf 359. We'll do all we can to stop the Borg. More importantly, we'll mitigate our losses as best we can. Protect Starfleet vessels and personnel whenever possible.
Whoever's it's okay, but they don't sound nearly tired enough to be Hansen. Hansen had a kind of fatigue in his voice. I don't know if I can do it justice.
The Borg cube is powerful. Destroy as many of its weapons as possible to reduce its power in combat. Be advised, the Borg can regenerate lost weapons over time. Be mindful of this out there.
I will disarm your weapons and escort us to Sector 001. If you attempt to intervene...
He's much too aggressive with the gravel.
Task Group Alpha, engage the Borg. Groups Beta and Gamma, hold for now. Melvin here. We're moving in.
So, this is... And of course, they didn't have Maelstrom torpedoes at Wolf 359. But this is more like what cubes should have been from the start. They should have never made Borg cubes trash mobs. Every single cube should have been a boss fight. And people, like, but Alchemist, did you say? There are so many Borg cubes, wouldn't it be a huge hassle if they were all boss fights? Yes, that's why you don't use Borg cubes so often. You save them for when it's special, because just one Borg cube is essentially a civilization-ending threat.
The knowledge and experience of the human, the god, is part of us now.
Although, this cube likewise has a whole bunch of shit they didn't have in Best of Both Worlds, like the ability to crap out spheres. You see that big hatch. I'm basically just going to focus on taking out assimilation probes, while everybody else does the lifting work. I believe Tumor Boy also pointed out that a lot of these ships are not actually correct, so they are still working on this. They do still have to fix like what some of the ships are, but there's going to be some names in here that you'll recognize. One of them is going to be the Righteous, which there's a bit of a gaffe. Hello. A little bit of frame loss there. There's a bit of a gaffe in that the Righteous is here, and she's not actually supposed to die. The Righteous is from an FMV game called Star Trek Borg, where history is altered so that the Righteous survives. Now, I suppose you could say, if you want to pull out your fan tinfoil hat, that Q has tricked out time by basically duplicating the Righteous and sending like a version. He had two versions. He snapped his fingers and made two versions of the Righteous. One version was the version that got destroyed at Wolf 359 all along. and the other version was the version that Kalen, the player character, saves through the course of the events of that game. So, I suppose you could say that happened? But in either case, the Righteous is here, and it's not actually supposed to be dead. There's also an Akira here, which isn't supposed to be here, and there's a lot of fan wank that the Akira was, like, in development already, and, like, all kinds of stuff. But that really, like, that's really all that is fanon. You know, it's a bunch of people who have basically headcanoned this thing and are going to insist that it's canon as much as possible, but it really isn't. And I think it's really fucking lame to put the Akira before Wolf 359, because the Akira, the Saber, the Steam Runner, all the Norway, all those ships were the response to Wolf 359. That was part of the point of the beginning of First Contact. Like, this is, like, the beginning of First Contact illustrated how much further Starfleet had gone. Like, 6 years previous, they stood their ground and fought the Borg and lost, but now they are essentially able to engage in a running battle with the Borg for days. Because it took days for the Enterprise to get to Earth from where it was at the neutral zone. And survive. So putting the Akira in this fight really downplays the point of that big part of the point of that big battle beginning of First Contact, and that is to illustrate that Starfleet has adapted like the Borg, but it's still not enough. Not yet, anyways. Not without a little inside baseball on the Borg, which Picard provided. And Hansen's dead. There's a bunch of new ships, well, old ships, in this that are probably going to be filling out a pretty big bundle in the middle of February. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the, Andromeda version of those ships are. And, of course, the Cube just nopes out. So there's a Constitution. There was a Constitution. I do not see any Gauge-class ships. I don't see the Mutant Excelsior.
Thankfully, we have safety protocols.
Hello, Ezri.
So only your pride took actual damage.
And, give me fleet marks, please. So, not faithful to canon, much more faithful to fanon than it is to canon. But still impressive, especially for this game. Some of the Mirror Universe missions have been doing some impressive stuff with the engine, stuff that I really didn't think I was going to see them do, like that whole, that big, that's the Righteous right there. That's what I'm checking to see if the Righteous survived the fight, which it didn't, and it's supposed to. There's a Probert. I think that's a Probert in there. I'm not sure. Like a Probert ambassador. But yeah, a lot of the ships are wrong. There was a list on Twitter of all the ships that were incorrect. There are also ships that are missing. I don't believe I saw Oberths in here. I did not see Gauge-class ships. I also didn't see any Klingon ships, and there were Klingon vessels at Wolf 359. My 100-year-old fucking constellation somehow survived. Okay, sure. So, from here, what happened, and I'm just going to put these up as, general. I'm just going to throw this footage up. There's a Parliament that was never there, of course, because Lower Decks didn't exist. Yeah. personally, I would have much preferred they hewed to canon and not fanon in regards to this. But it is what it is. What are you going to do? It's still impressive. So from this point, what I did was I basically launched into a whole bunch of elites, because there's a bug right now that instead of giving you the things you need to craft advanced consoles, it just instead of giving you like the crafting materials to make the things you need to make R&D consoles, I should say rather, it just gives you the craftables, like instead of giving you the crafting materials that you need. So basically, you could just run a mission and get what you need for an ISOMag console just like immediately. And so that's basically what I did for the entire rest of this footage, is I just ran elites. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to make those separate videos and just put them up. It really sucks that it didn't record my commentary. But, like I said, it is what it is. Whole bunch of Omega particles. I'm really not going to do the Omega particle thing. Why would you want to when there's ISOMag shit to be gotten? So, without any further ado, let's get started in the next video, not in this video. Yeah. Oh, I am going to talk about this before I go, though. So, the Picard Season 2 uniform is probably the only one in New Trek that I actually do like, genuinely. And part of that is because it is essentially the All Good Things uniform. And I'm going to pull up the All Good Things uniform in a second, because I was talking about it while I was looking at this guy. If you just take away the turtleneck and add like the weird cummerbund, that's the All Good Things uniform. So yeah, I was talking about that, how it was. I really liked the fact that Terry Matalas did that, because he was responsible for basically the best parts of Season 2, all 2 episodes of the best parts of Season 2, and Season 3 in its entirety. So everything about Star Trek Picard that became more Star Trek was his doing, essentially. But yeah, that's the same uniform. And I like that, because they made a point throughout Next Gen, DS9, Server Not Responding, and Voyager, to show that no matter what the timeline was, this is where things were headed. This is what the future looked like. So, and we do have a relative timeline for when that uniform slots in. The badge slots in at or before 2387, the hollow badge, the hollow delta with the 2 gold bars behind it, and somewhere in the by 2393, that uniform, the All Good Things uniform, I can't minimize it. I tried so I could show them side by side, but it didn't work. That uniform is what Starfleet was using. So, and that uniform transitions directly from the First Contact Gray Shoulders. So, they transition from the Gray Shoulders to this, and I like that lineage. Lineage is a thing that New Trek does not have, and it, like, time and continuity and lineage is part of the secret sauce that made the era of the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager the golden age of the franchise and the most famous and iconic and beloved era of Star Trek. Without that feeling of a world, of this being not just a place and a time, but a world that was in motion, it would never have blown up the way that it did. It would never have become as popular as it did. And speaking personally, I still don't like the printed pattern on the shoulders. I think it's horrible. I think it's terrible. I think the costume designer should be, like, whoever is responsible for this should be shit canned. What they did to the Wrath of Khan uniform was a travesty in Strange New Worlds. Like, how do you take the most iconic, one of the most beloved looks for Starfleet in the history of the franchise and make it clash with itself. That's your way of improving on it, is to make it clash. Get the fuck out, please. But yeah, it gives it more, it makes it more than just a show. It makes it a setting. It makes it a world that's in motion and has momentum and change. We end in a very different place by the end of Star Trek Nemesis than we began at the beginning of Next Generation, and there are literal decades of television that you can map that trajectory across continuously. And that's something New Trek just does not have, does not care about, does not give two fucks to have. That's showing work, right? That's what I want to see. And that's one of the reasons why Star Trek Online is still, up until after Coda destroyed the novelverse, thanks David Mack. Thanks for selling out all of your fellow authors. After Coda destroyed the novelverse, Star Trek Online is the superior canon. It just is. Rip out all the new Trek stuff, and Star Trek Online is 10 times better than everything that has been put out since 2009, with the sole exception of Picard Season 3. Lineage and continuity is one of the reasons why Lower Decks is so beloved. And I don't even like Lower Decks, but even I'm willing to admit that it does get some things right. It gets the aesthetic of the technology right. All of Starfleet stuff is coded as tools rather than weapons. That's exactly the way it should be. It gets the ship aesthetics correct. It gets the sound Foley correct. It gets the visual effects correct. I just hate the humor. I hate that every time I watch it, it feels like I'm watching just a never-ending barrage of Family Guy jokes. You remember that time when? You remember that time? Hey, you remember that time? Hey, you remember this? You remember that? You remember that time? 80 or 90 times a minute. It annoys me to no end. If you enjoy that show, more power to you. It drives me absolutely fucking crazy. I can't stand it. But yeah, this has been your weekly Alk Hates New Trek. At least once per video, rather. Can't get a Star Trek video out without dissing New Trek somehow. But yeah, from this point, we're just going to go into a bunch of elites, and I'm going to make those separate videos and put those up because it didn't record my commentary. That sucks. Some fun stuff happened. There was some fun stuff to talk about in there. But, sometimes shit happens. Shit happens, and sometimes Bandicam just decides, I'm not going to record your microphone. If you're wondering what's going on now, I'm basically, recording under a blanket. Because there's, a fucking thunderstorm outside. Alright. I should probably get this blanket off before I get electrocuted. Yeah. So, see you guys later, and enjoy the Elite footage.